Welcome to your deep dive. We're really diving into it today. Tackling a subject that hits home for a lot of families out there, parental alienation. Specifically, what goes down in family court. And let me tell you, the audio clip you sent over from that Black Coffee podcast episode, Judge Condemns Parental Alienation by Mother, this one sounds like it's going to be intense.
Oh yeah, definitely a heavy topic.
Before we press play on that courtroom drama, though, I need you to bring us up to speed. What are we even talking about when we say parental alienation?
So parental alienation is basically like, imagine someone trying to poison a well.
Right.
Make everyone sick who drinks from it. In this scenario, one parent is trying to poison the child's mind against the other parent.
Wow. Okay, so not your average parenting disagreements here.
Definitely not. We're talking about using manipulation, lies, even planting false memories to create fear, resentment, sometimes even hatred towards the other parent, trying to completely sever that parent-child bond.
So it's really a calculated campaign to turn a child against their own parent.
Sadly, yes. And the effects on these kids can be absolutely devastating. Like, we're talking lifelong emotional and psychological problems. But here's the thing, proving that intention in court, that's where it gets really tricky. It becomes a legal and psychological minefield.
Which makes this audio, this courtroom recording you found, so fascinating. It sounds like the judge in this case was really able to see exactly what was happening.
Right. It's not every day you hear a judge condemn this so directly.
All right, so let's hit play on this courtroom drama, shall we?
I've seen over and over again what I believe to be absolutely true. Mr. Cook dearly loves his children. If that were the case, he'd have given up a long time ago, given the many, many obstacles that Ms. Spar has thrown in the way over the years, trying to interfere with Mr. Cook having a reasonable parental relationship with his children.
What was the judge's reaction when he realized what was going on with this family?
Well, he didn't hold back, that's for sure. He directly accused the mother, a Miss Spar, of instilling fear in her daughters. Their names are Isabel and Chloe. Basically said she was brainwashing them to turn against their dad, a Mr. Cook.
Wow, no sugarcoating there.
Not at all. And there's this one moment, it's chilling, he goes, "The danger is what mom is doing, ma'am." You get this, he even threatens to throw her in jail if she doesn't start following the court's visitation orders.
Whoa. Okay, that tells you right there, he truly believed those kids were at risk. Did he say anything else about what was setting off alarm bells about this mom's behavior?
Yeah, so he seemed especially concerned about how quickly the daughter, Isabel, had completely turned against her dad. He actually says at one point she's as alienated as I've seen a child become. Which, coming from a judge, that's saying something. That's got to be heartbreaking to hear.
Yeah, and this whole case really highlights that term you hear tossed around family court all the time. What is it? The best interest of the child.
Right. Best interest of the child. Seems pretty self-explanatory when you say it like that. But something tells me there's more to it.
Oh, there always is. It's like the holy grail of custody cases sounds simple enough, but good luck finding it. What it really means is judges, they got to consider a ton of different things. The kid's physical and emotional well-being, obviously. Each parent's ability to provide a stable home, a loving environment. And this is a big one. Any history of abuse, neglect, or, yeah, you guessed it, parental alienation. So in this case, it sounds like the judge was pretty convinced that being manipulated by her mom was definitely not in Isabel's best interest. And he seemed ready to take some pretty drastic measures to try to undo some of that damage.
Exactly. He ordered both Isabel and her sister to go to therapy, which, by the way, that's often a major strategy in these types of situations.
Makes sense. Give the kids a safe space to process all these emotions, maybe start to untangle all that manipulation they've been through.
Exactly. He also ordered supervised visits with their dad.
Now, we both know therapy is not like instant magic, right? Snapping your fingers and suddenly all the deep-rooted family issues are gone. So how does supervised visitation even work? Like, how do you actually use that to rebuild those broken bonds between a kid and the parent they've supposedly been alienated from?
Well, the name kind of says that all the kid gets to visit with the parent, but it's all in a very controlled environment. There's a trained professional there, a neutral third party. They observe all the interactions, make sure the kid's safe. Sometimes they even coach the parent, how to rebuild trust, how to communicate better with their child. It's not about, forcing affection or anything. It's about creating a space that's safe, neutral, gives that genuine connection a chance to grow.
Sounds like a delicate dance, especially when a kid's been told so many negative things about the other parent. Are there certain therapeutic approaches that tend to work better in these situations? I mean, regular family counseling, that doesn't seem like it would quite cut it here.
Yeah, you need a more specialized approach for sure. There's one called family reunification therapy. It's pretty common, really laser focused on repairing those broken relationships. Usually involves individual therapy for the child, separate therapy for the parents, and you get everyone together in sessions. And there's also parent-child interaction therapy. That one's more about helping the parent improve their communication skills, teaching them how to respond to their child in a way that builds that healthy bond back up.
So like a multi-pronged approach. Got to address the individual and the whole family dynamic. Gotcha.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier how hard it can be to prove parental alienation in court, and I can only imagine there's a whole lot of gray area there. So what are some of the challenges in actually proving that a parent is deliberately trying to, like, sabotage the other parent's relationship with their kid?
You're right, it's super nuanced. Like we said before, just bad-mouthing the other parent, having different parenting styles. That's not enough. The court needs to see evidence of a real pattern of manipulation, like this was strategically designed to harm the relationship.
Okay, so how do you prove intent? In a court of law, that's got to be tough.
It all comes down to the details. Text messages, emails, anything showing the parent bad-mouthing the other parent to the child. What about unfounded accusations against the other parent? Has the child's behavior toward that parent suddenly changed? For no apparent reason. Those are the kinds of red flags courts look for.
So you're almost like a legal detective piecing together all these clues, trying to establish that pattern of behavior. And as we've been saying, this is not just some courtroom drama, right? This has a real lasting impact on children.
Oh, absolutely. And it's way more common than people realize. We don't have tons of hard data on this, but some studies suggest that maybe even 25% of couples going through divorce or separation, they experience parental alienation to some degree.
25%, that many. That's a lot of kids caught in the crossfire. So what are some signs, some red flags that someone listening might notice, maybe even in their own family or with friends going through a divorce? What should people be looking out for?
Well, it's not always crystal clear, right? But you might notice a child using language that seems, I don't know, too grown up when they're talking bad about the other parent, almost like they memorized a script.
Like they're just repeating what they've heard.
Exactly. Phrases like, he's always mean to me, or she doesn't care about me at all. But it just feels off. Like it's not coming from their own true feelings.
Right, right. And I imagine that's what makes this so hard to detect sometimes. Because on the surface, a kid saying those things, it sounds like any other kid complaining about their parents.
Yep. And another big one, that the child might suddenly become like fiercely loyal to one parent and completely reject the other parent with no real explanation, no logic behind it.
Just a complete 180. And these are the kids we were saying earlier, statistically, they're at a much higher risk for some serious problems down the road, right? We're talking depression, anxiety, trouble forming healthy relationships. You even mentioned substance abuse. Makes you realize how crucial that early intervention is. Like if you can catch this early on, it can make all the difference.
Couldn't agree more. And that's why it's on all of us to be more aware. I'm talking friends, family, teachers, even therapists. We all need to know the signs and be ready to step in if we see something that seems wrong. Sometimes, just having someone to talk to who's neutral, who's not taking sides, that can be a lifeline for a kid stuck in the middle of this kind of battle.
It's so true. We've covered so much in this deep dive. It's been eye-opening and honestly pretty heavy stuff. But we talked about what parental alienation is, how it plays out in families, in courtrooms, and the very real damage it does to kids. So as we start to wrap things up here, expert speaker, what's the most important message you want to leave with our listeners today?
You know, it's easy to get caught up in all the blame when it comes to this, but at the end of the day, it's the kids who get hurt the most. And they deserve the love and support of both parents. Whenever it's safe, of course. That might mean putting aside your own pain, your own anger even, and putting the child's well-being first. And that's not always easy, I get it.
It's choosing the path of healing, even when it's tough. Choosing to put the child's needs above everything else.
Exactly. Those early years, those early experiences, good or bad, they shape how a child sees the world. They shape how they build relationships for the rest of their lives. We owe it to them to break these cycles.
So powerful. And if someone listening right now is worried about a child in their life, what can they do? Where can they go for help? What resources are out there?
There are some great organizations out there. One that comes to mind is the Association of Family and Conciliation Courts. That's AFCC. They have tons of resources, support for families going through divorce and custody battles. They even have a website you can find info on how to find a therapist in your area. One who specializes in this stuff, parental alienation.
Amazing. We'll make sure to link to that in our show notes. Expert speaker, this has been an incredible deep dive. Thank you so much for helping us really unpack this issue.
Anytime. And remember, knowledge is power, right? The more we understand these situations, the better we can be there for these kids and help families heal.
And to everyone listening, thanks for joining us on this deep dive. If this episode resonated with you, please share it. Pass it along to someone who might benefit from this conversation. Until next time, stay curious.